Ever notice how some tech solutions, they feel like, well, they weren't really designed with you in mind. Like someone kind of forgot about how the real world works.
Hmm.
That's kind of the core of what we're going to be digging into today with Christian Ortiz's piece, The Mansions of AI.
Right.
His argument is that when we build AI without making sure diverse voices are part of that process, it's kind of like, imagine if you designed a mansion, but like only a tiny, tiny percentage of people could ever actually live in it.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about Ortiz is that he doesn't just keep it theoretical, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
He takes it out of that and brings in, like, the real world stuff, the consequences.
Okay, so let's get into that then. What are some like real world examples where this lack of diversity, this lack of different voices when you're building AI actually hurts people?
One of the clearest examples is in hiring algorithms.
Hmm.
So picture this. A company, they want to be super efficient, right? So they're like,
Yeah.
let's use AI to go through thousands of resumes.
Makes sense, yeah.
Sounds great, right? But here's the catch. What if that AI, what if it was mostly trained on data from, say, only white men
Okay.
in their 30s with very specific degrees?
Yeah.
It might unintentionally, even though it's not trying to be mean, it might screen out really qualified people from different
It
backgrounds
does.
because they don't fit that mold of what the AI thinks, what it's been told is successful.
So you can't just hope it'll be neutral, right? Like the way you train it actually bakes those biases right
Yeah.
in, and that has real impact, right? People's jobs, their livelihood.
Absolutely. And it goes way beyond hiring. We see this in things like getting loans,
Oh.
where the algorithm, it might be unfair and deny someone a mortgage just because of their zip code, or other things that, even if they don't seem related, they're actually connected to someone's race or ethnicity, even if their credit's fantastic.
And this is where I think Ortiz's argument about needing marginalized voices in AI development, it just becomes so clear. He's not saying it's about being nice or checking a box. It's that these voices, they've got these unique insights into the very biases we need to be fighting.
100%. He gives three main reasons why these voices are so essential. One, they can see the bias. Two, you get inclusive design. And three, AI can actually help undo past injustices instead of making them worse.
Okay, those are some big ideas. I want to unpack those for
Yeah.
sure. Let's start with this idea of, what did he call it? Visibility of bias. What does that even mean when we're talking about AI?
So think of it this way. People from these groups, from marginalized groups, their life experiences make them really good at spotting those subtle ways bias shows up. They might see patterns in how people treat them, the assumptions folks make, those little microaggressions, stuff that people in the majority group might not even notice.
It's like they're the ones seeing the cracks in the foundation,
Yes.
right? And
Exactly.
if you've never had to deal with those cracks, you wouldn't even know they were there.
Precisely. And that ability to see those cracks, that's absolutely essential when we're talking about AI, because they're the ones who can say, hey, this algorithm, it's making a connection that's not fair, or this data set, it's missing something really important, or this AI tool, it's accidentally leaving a whole group of people out.
So it's about bringing those lived experiences to the table, not just hoping for the best, because good intentions only get you so far, right?
Exactly.
And this leads us right into that second crucial aspect, right? Inclusive design.
Yes.
And this is where things get really interesting, I think, from like an ethics point of view, right? Because we can't build AI that only works for a small group of people. It has to work for everyone, right? So it's not even just about making sure it functions right. It's like from the very beginning, when you're designing it, you have to be thinking about all these different needs, different perspectives, right?
Exactly. Imagine, like, facial recognition software, but it worked just as well for every skin tone.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Or medical AI that was trained on, like, all sorts of different data, so it actually accounted for, different bodies, how people react to treatments.
It's about making sure this tech helps everyone, not just keeps the same inequalities going, or even worse, creates new ones, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, now that third point Ortiz made about how AI could actually undo past injustices, that's a big one. What's that look like in the real world?
Well, it starts with realizing that AI can either make the status quo worse or it can challenge it.
Okay.
So take the criminal justice system. There's been all this talk about using AI for, like, risk assessment, predicting if someone's going to reoffend.
Right, right.
But if those algorithms, if they're trained on data that's already biased, showing all these racial disparities in who gets arrested, who gets harsher sentences,
Oh, man.
then it just makes those problems even worse.
So instead of fixing those harmful patterns, the AI is actually making sure they keep happening. That's kind of terrifying.
It is. But here's the flip side, right? This is where the hope comes in. What if, when we were designing these algorithms, we put justice and fairness right there in the code, right at the start?
Okay, yeah.
What if we used data that actually tried to account for those biases, tried to correct them, instead of amplifying them?
So it's not even just about avoiding the harm. It's like you're actively trying to use AI to make a more just, a more equal world.
That's exactly it. AI could actually level the playing field, open up opportunities, give power back to communities that have been pushed down for so long. But that only happens if we're really deliberate about it, if that's what we're designing for.
Now, I bet some folks listening are thinking, okay, this is all important, BUT, what happens if we don't do this? What's the cost? And Ortiz, he doesn't hold back. He lays out some pretty serious consequences if we keep excluding these voices.
And these aren't just, like, theoretical consequences. This stuff actually impacts people, impacts society as a whole.
Yeah.
One, we just end up reinforcing how things already are. When the people building AI, when they mostly come from the same background, the same experiences, well, their limitations, their blind spots, those get built right into the technology.
It's like that saying, right? If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're going to design solutions based on what you know, what you understand about the problem. And that might not have anything to do with someone else's reality, especially if they haven't had your same advantages.
And that takes us to that second big consequence, right? Missing those critical problems. Because if you don't have those different voices at the table, you're going to miss stuff, especially issues that really hit those marginalized communities hardest.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of what that might look like? Like in the real world, what would that be?
Sure. Let's say we're making, I don't know, an AI system to help people use public transportation, right?
Okay, yeah.
But the designers, they don't talk to anyone with disabilities. So they don't even think about things like wheelchair accessibility or audio cues for people who can't see well or clear signage for people with cognitive differences.
So you end up with this system that might work great for some people, but for others, it completely fails them. And it's not just an inconvenience at that point. It's like they're excluded.
Exactly. And finally, when we don't include those diverse perspectives, we end up just repeating these harmful narratives.
Okay, say more about that. What do you mean by harmful narratives?
Well, think about those algorithms social media companies use, right? To recommend content, to personalize what you see. What if that system was trained on data that was already full of gender stereotypes? It might start showing women, like, more stuff about cooking or fashion or parenting.
While men are getting what? Business, tech, sports?
Yeah. So it's subtly reinforcing those old stereotypes, right? And it limits people, what they're exposed to, what they think is possible for them.
It's like those algorithms are deciding our futures, what we should be interested in, what's expected of us, without us even realizing it's happening.
That's exactly right. These aren't just theoretical problems. They have a real impact on people's lives.
It's like these algorithms are kind of whispering to us about what we can and can't do based on like these old, outdated ideas about who we are. And we don't even realize it's happening most of the time, which I think makes this next part of what Ortiz is saying so important. He doesn't just stop at the problems, right? He makes this really strong argument for why having inclusive AI, it's not just about like helping marginalized groups. It actually benefits everyone, even the folks who might think this doesn't really apply to me.
Yeah, it's like he's saying it's about building a better world for all of us, a fairer world. And guess what? A richer world, too. When we design systems that work for everyone, not just a select few, well, everyone feels the positive effects of that.
Okay, so how does that work? Give me some real-world examples.
Okay, let's talk healthcare. Imagine if we had medical AI that was developed with input from all kinds of people.
Yeah.
Different backgrounds, races, genders, abilities, everything, right? We could build diagnostic tools that are more accurate for everyone.
Yeah.
Treatment plans that actually work better.
So we're not just talking about access at this point, but actually improving the quality of healthcare for everyone.
Exactly. And this applies to so many other areas, too. Think about education. What if we had AI-powered tools that were designed to work with different learning styles, different cultural backgrounds?
Yeah.
We could help every student succeed, right? Or how about AI for, like, managing traffic? Imagine reducing congestion and pollution, but it's not just for wealthy neighborhoods, it's for everyone.
So it's about getting to the root of these problems, these systemic issues, right? Instead of just trying to fix things after the fact.
Exactly. And this ties into another big benefit of inclusive AI, innovation. When we have all these different perspectives, all these experiences at the table, we're going to come up with more creative solutions, out-of-the-box ideas.
Because if everyone's coming from the same place with the same limited experiences, you're going to miss out on a lot of good ideas.
Right. And that leads to a richer, more dynamic, more innovative society. But I think beyond the practical stuff, there's a moral reason to do this too. We need to build AI that actually reflects, our shared humanity.
What do you mean by that?
Technology is never neutral. It's always shaped by the people who create it, their values, their blind spots, their biases. So when we leave people out of that process, we're basically saying your experiences don't matter. Your needs don't matter.
It's about who gets to shape the future, whose voices are heard, whose stories get told.
Yes. And that's something we all need to be thinking about as technology keeps changing so fast.
It's a call to action, right? For all of us to get informed, get involved, and speak up about the kind of future we want to see. A future where AI is used to build a better world for everyone.
Well said. And it's a conversation we need to be having everywhere, in schools, in companies, in government. This affects all of us.
So to our listeners, keep learning, keep asking those tough questions, and don't be afraid to demand better. We can create a future where technology reflects our values, our shared humanity. We just have to be intentional about it. That's it for this deep dive. Thanks for joining us as we explore these crucial questions about the future of AI.